In November 2023, hunters discovered an old oak tree with a hollow trunk in the Ozark Mountains. Inside were bones and the remains of a backpack. Forensic experts confirmed that these were the remains of Emily Grayson, a 22-year-old student from Kansas City who disappeared without a trace in the summer of 2012. Her case had been a cold case for over a decade. The events began on June 9, 2012. That morning, Emily left home in her gray Honda Civic. She was planning a short trip to the Ozark National Forest, a day of hiking and a night of camping. She told her friends that she wanted to be alone, to take a break from her studies and thoughts about her recent breakup with her boyfriend. The park's visitor log recorded her arrival at around 9:30 a.m. She paid the entrance fee and received a map of the trails. Her car was left in the parking lot near the North Trail, locked, with no signs of damage. Several books and a change of clothes were later found inside, but she had taken her main backpack with her. At 10 a.m., a visitor reported seeing a young woman with a backpack and a bottle of water on the trail. His description matched Emily's. Light hair, light t-shirt, blue backpack. This was the first confirmed sighting. Around noon, two hikers returning down the same route recalled seeing a girl walking alone toward them. She looked calm and was walking towards the observation deck. This was the last reliable sighting. Contact was lost in the evening. At 8:45 p.m., her mother called her daughter, but the phone was turned off. The next morning, when Emily was supposed to return to the city, she did not arrive. On Monday, June 11th, her mother officially filed a report with the county sheriff's office. The document stated, "My daughter went to the mountains for the weekend. She did not return. Her phone is turned off. Her car is still in the parking lot. Her whereabouts are unknown." The park rangers confirmed the information about the car. The Honda Civic was indeed where she had left it, with the keys and personal documents inside. There were no signs of a struggle or outside interference in the cabin. The car was locked and the windows were intact. On the same day, several witnesses gave preliminary testimony. A couple from the campground recalled seeing a girl who looked like Emily near the parking lot around 11 a.m. The saleswoman at a small shop at the park entrance reported that a young woman in a light-colored t-shirt and carrying a backpack had visited her during the day. She bought water and a snack bar. A man in a baseball cap was standing next to her in line. It is unknown whether they were together. The camera in the store was malfunctioning, making it impossible to identify the people. All this information was recorded in the report. During the first 2 days, the main task was to determine where Emily could have disappeared. Only a few brief testimonies were recorded, which did not provide a complete picture. The official record in the case read, "The last reliable contact was around noon on the North Trail. Her further movements are unknown." From the very beginning, suspicion fell on her ex-boyfriend. He confirmed that he had seen Emily a week earlier and that the relationship had been tense. Several messages with harsh language were found on his phone. During questioning, he stated that he had been working on the day of her disappearance, which was partially confirmed by his colleagues. However, there was a gap of several hours in his schedule without any precise confirmation of his whereabouts. Despite this, there was no direct evidence. The ex-boyfriend was not arrested, but his status was recorded as person of interest. On the evening of June 11th, official documents already contained a brief summary. Person missing: Emily Grayson, 22 years old. Car found. Latest evidence is sparse. Probable place of disappearance is the North Trail. Further location unknown. This entry became the starting point for the following days. The next phase of the case involved a large-scale search, which began on Tuesday and lasted several weeks. Emily Grayson was born and raised in Kansas City. She was 22 years old at the time of her disappearance. She studied at a local college in the Department of Ecology and Natural Resource Management. Her teachers described her as a conscientious student who knows how to work in a team and takes her tasks seriously. Her classmates remembered her as calm, non-confrontational, and very organized. Back in high school, she joined a hiking club. She loved spending weekends camping and hiking in the surrounding area. During her college years, she was an active member of the hiking club. She was not an extreme sports enthusiast, but she had basic orienteering and equipment skills. Her friends said that Emily always prepared thoroughly. She checked the map, took a supply of water, and the minimum necessary items. In her travels, she sought silence and solitude rather than adventure. Among her friends, Emily was described as a person who easily found common ground with others, but had a tendency to be self-absorbed. She loved to photograph nature with a regular digital camera, collected albums with routes, and labeled all her trips with dates and coordinates. Her personal life was not going well. 6 months before her disappearance, she began dating a young man from the same city. The relationship quickly became tense. Friends noted that the guy was jealous and controlling, often sending messages demanding explanations of where she was and with whom. The family recalled several unpleasant incidents, after which their daughter seemed depressed. In May 2012, Emily broke off the relationship. During questioning, her mother said she just wanted to get away from it all. She said she was going to take the weekend off, go to Ozark, and clear her head a little. It was supposed to be her trip for herself. Her friends confirmed that the trip had been planned in advance. She did not hide her intention, but she did not invite anyone to join her. An important detail was that Emily never went hiking without telling her loved ones. Her brother provided the police with a text message in which she described her route and estimated time of return. The message read, "Parking on the North Trail. Will be back on Sunday." This confirmed her character. She was organized and responsible. According to her neighbors' recollections, Emily looked tired but calm in the days before her trip. She left the house several times with a backpack, checking her equipment. The police later found a list of items she planned to take on the table in her room. It included basic items: a flashlight, a bottle of water, a first aid kit, a knife, and a map. Her colleagues from her part-time job at a bookstore recalled that the day before her departure, she said, "I just want to take a walk and disconnect. After the exam session and all these arguments, I need some peace and quiet." Her words were recorded in the testimony as an explanation of her motive for the trip. The case file contains the investigator's report from the family interview. It states that she had recently broken up with her boyfriend before the trip and that she had explicitly said that she wanted to spend the weekend in nature to relax and be alone. Thus, the context was clear. A young woman, a student, active in a nature club who had experience with short hikes. Her decision to spend the weekend in Ozark did not seem risky or ill-considered, but this trip turned out to be her last. On June 11, 2012, after her mother reported her daughter missing, the sheriff's office officially launched a search operation in the area of the northern entrance to the Ozark National Forest. Park employees, local volunteers, and dog handlers were involved in the search. On the first day, they combed the area within a kilometer radius of the parking lot where Emily's car was found. The car was re-examined. The doors were locked, the keys were not inside, and the missing woman's documents and wallet were with her. In the trunk were a sleeping bag and a spare jacket. This confirmed that she had set out on the route with the intention of spending the night at the campsite. The dogs picked up the scent from the car and stopped several times at the start of the trail, but then the scent was lost. The canine team's report stated, "The scent is lost after a few hundred meters. Further movement is unknown." On the second day, a helicopter with a thermal imager was brought in to assist in the search. The area along the route to the observation deck and the surrounding meadows were surveyed. No thermal signals or traces of human presence were detected. The pilot noted in his report, "No anomalies from above. The area is evenly covered with forest." By the middle of the week, the search headquarters had been set up in the parking lot at the park entrance. A sector map was created, and the area was divided into 500-meter squares. Each square was worked on by a group of several volunteers and one instructor. A total of up to 100 people went out every day. The reports repeated the same statement every day. No signs of a struggle were found. No personal belongings were found. Several times, finds were made that could be related to the case. An empty water bottle, a piece of fabric left by the wind on the bushes. All these items were sent for examination, but the result was the same. No connection with the missing person has been established. On June 15th, a rescue team from a neighboring district was brought in to assist with the operation. They surveyed the section of the canyon where accidents often occurred. The work lasted 2 days, but no traces were found. On June 16th, divers were brought in to search 2 small reservoirs near the route. The divers worked from morning to evening. The report states, "The bottom is clear, no foreign objects found." In the final document for the first week of the operation, the officer in charge of coordination wrote, "It is possible that the person left the trail and lost their bearings." This phrase began to be repeated in subsequent reports. Every day the search area was expanded, but there were no results. In the evenings, Emily's relatives and friends gathered at headquarters. They provided new photos for postcards and helped coordinate volunteers. After 2 weeks, the number of participants decreased. Volunteers returned home, and the county's resources were limited. The operation entered a limited search phase. Official documents from this period contain dozens of identical lines. No traces of the person have been found. There was no material evidence in the case that could confirm Emily's whereabouts after the afternoon of June 9th. The phrase, "may have lost her way," became a standard phrase in reports. But the facts remained unchanged. No bottle with her fingerprints, no piece of clothing, no clue. In the 3rd week, the search was officially scaled back. From then on, the Emily Grayson case began to shift into another category: accident or possible third-party involvement. In the case file on Emily Grayson's disappearance, one of the first lines of investigation was to check on her ex-boyfriend. His name appears repeatedly in the reports with the notation, "person of interest." The breakup occurred a few weeks before the trip to Ozark. According to Emily's friends, she had seemed depressed in recent months and often received messages from him demanding explanations about who she was spending time with. The investigation materials contain screenshots of text messages taken from her phone. "You never answer. I'll find out where you are anyway," sent 2 weeks before her disappearance. "You'd better not go alone," a few days before her departure. After the disappearance was reported, the sheriff's department contacted the man the very next day. He arrived for questioning voluntarily. The report notes that he appeared reserved and answered briefly. He claimed that on the day of the disappearance, he was working at a car repair shop in a town about a 40-minute drive from the park. A survey of his colleagues confirmed that he was indeed at work that morning, signing orders and participating in car repairs. There is also testimony from one of the customers that he saw him at the workshop at around 5 p.m. Thus, the beginning and end of the working day were confirmed. But in the middle of the shift, from about 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., no one could clearly confirm his presence. Investigators tried to track down this time gap. Phone connections were checked. It turned out that the device was turned off during the specified period. The former's explanation was as follows: "The battery died, so I put it on charge in the workshop." No technical evidence was found to refute this version. The police contacted the owner of the repair shop to check the CCTV cameras. However, the equipment was faulty. No recordings from that day had been saved. This created additional room for suspicion. During questioning, the ex-boyfriend admitted that they had hardly communicated since their breakup, but denied making any threats. He explained the messages saved on her phone as emotional but not serious. The report states, "The person does not acknowledge the existence of a conflict. He states that he has not seen the missing person for several weeks." Investigators also interviewed his friends. One of them said that the day before she disappeared, the ex-boyfriend expressed outrage that Emily was going to the mountains alone. This detail was included in the materials as indirect evidence of a possible motive. The possibility that he could have left work for a few hours, gone to the park, met with her, and returned was also considered. Geographically, this was possible. The trip took about 40 minutes each way. However, no witnesses to his presence in the park area on that day were found. In an interim report, the investigator wrote, "The suspect has a gap in his work schedule, with no confirmed witnesses between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. There is no direct evidence of his presence near the park. As of today, it is impossible to either confirm or rule out his involvement." Formally, there were no grounds for arrest, but in all subsequent documents, he remained on the list of persons subject to regular checks. Every few months, the police updated the information about him, but no evidence linking him to Emily's disappearance ever appeared. In reports from later years, he was referred to as the main suspect without evidence. It was this wording that defined his role in the case, a constant shadow that long diverted resources from other possible versions. In the second half of June 2012, when the active search had been going on for over a week, investigators began to receive new evidence. It did not concern Emily's route or equipment, but for the first time pointed to the possible presence of another person with her. A group of tourists from Missouri, returning from the observation deck, reported that on Saturday, June 9th, they saw a young woman with light hair and a blue backpack on the trail. She was not alone. A man wearing a dark baseball cap was walking nearby. The tourists described him as being of average height, athletic build, and approximately 25 to 30 years old. They noted that they had heard fragments of conversation, but could not recall any details. These statements were recorded in the report and became the first confirmation that Emily may have had a companion on the day of her disappearance. For the police, this meant a new direction, establishing the identity of the man in the baseball cap. After that, investigators returned to information that they had previously considered secondary. In the early days, one of the employees of a small shop at the park entrance recalled seeing a young woman in a light-colored t-shirt with a backpack buying a bottle of water and a snack bar. Behind her in line was a man wearing a baseball cap. In the early days, this information was simply recorded, but no further action was taken. Now, after reports from tourists, the saleswoman was called in for official questioning. The interrogation report from June 20th states, "The witness confirms that the woman was young, blonde, and had a blue backpack. An unknown man was standing behind her in line. No interaction between them was recorded. The witness cannot confirm that they were together." The police checked the store's surveillance camera. The recording was technically faulty. Some of the frames were missing, and the resolution was too low. The video only showed blurry figures of two people at the cash register. It was impossible to identify them. Despite the lack of clear data, the coincidence of descriptions attracted the attention of investigators. In an internal report, the officer noted, "There are at least 2 independent testimonies about a man in a baseball cap who was near the missing person on the day of her disappearance. The circumstances indicate possible interaction, but there is no evidence of their connection." The search headquarters held a meeting to discuss these testimonies. It was decided to issue a description. A man, aged between 25 and 30, of average height and athletic build. There is a noticeable tattoo of a bird on his right forearm. Witnesses could not recall any other distinguishing features. However, they did not make it public at the time. There was not enough evidence to officially announce a search for a specific person. The focus of the investigation remained on Emily's ex-boyfriend, as threatening messages and an incomplete alibi had been preserved against him. The unknown man theory was included in the documents, but no official action was taken. The June report states, testimony has been received from tourists and a local store indicating the possible presence of a third party near Grayson. The investigation is ongoing. No identification has been made. This is how the figure of the man in a baseball cap first appeared in the case. It remained in the materials as a shadow detail that could not be confirmed or rejected. Only years later did this testimony take on new meaning, but at that time, the police did not have the resources or evidence to pursue this line of investigation further. By September 2012, the active phase of the search for Emily Grayson in the Ozark Mountains had effectively ended. During the first few weeks, dozens of volunteers, dog handlers, and rescuers from other counties were involved. A helicopter flew over the route every day. Divers searched the reservoirs, but the result remained the same. No items, no confirmed traces. Gradually, resources were depleted. Volunteers returned to work and school. Full-time rescue teams moved on to other calls. The August reports state 18 people participated in the search. Approximately 12 kilometers of the route were covered. No signs of the person's whereabouts were found. Emily's family tried to keep the public interested. Her parents and brother printed hundreds of flyers with a photo of their daughter and posted them at bus stops, shops, and gas stations in nearby towns. In August, they contacted several local television stations. The evening news featured stories asking for any information. Several calls were made to the hotline. Someone claimed to have seen a girl resembling Emily on a bus to Springfield. Others said they had met her at a gas station. All reports were checked, but no confirmation was received. The final report stated, "None of the reports have been confirmed. The probability of coincidences is high." The police gradually reduced their daily presence in the park. The officer coordinating the operation made a note in September. Active search completed. Further action will be taken if new information comes to light. For the family, this meant the actual beginning of a new phase, the fight for attention to the case. They organized several small marches in downtown Kansas City to remind the public of the disappearance. Interviews with the mother appeared in the media, in which she repeated, "We can't stop until we find out the truth." In internal documents from the sheriff's office, the Grayson case has officially been classified as a cold case since the fall of 2012. This meant that there was no active search and minimal updates to the information. The reports contained the following statement: as of date X, there is no evidence. The case has been transferred to the long-term category. For investigators, this was a standard decision. Without new leads, there was no point in continuing a massive search. For the family, it was a moment when they had to keep their hopes alive on their own. From that moment on, the story of Emily Grayson's disappearance became part of a list of unsolved cases that have been stored for years in cabinets marked open but inactive. Several years passed after Emily Grayson's disappearance. The case remained a cold case. The family continued to post flyers and write to the local media, but there was no new information. In September 2015, the county sheriff's office investigating the Ozark Mountains received a request from the neighboring state of Arkansas. The local police reported the arrest of a man suspected of assaulting a tourist. According to the victim, he tried to pull her off the trail, grabbed her arm, and told her not to scream. The woman broke free and ran away, calling for help. He was arrested the same day near the scene of the incident. The Arkansas police report states, "A man, approximately 28 years old, 175, 178 centimeters tall, athletic build, short, dark hair, a bird tattoo on his right forearm." This description almost matched the testimony given several years earlier by tourists in the Ozark National Forest. A man between the ages of 25 and 30, of average height, athletic build, with a bird tattoo on his forearm. This is how the unknown companion, who was seen with Emily on the day of her disappearance, was described in the documents. Arkansas investigators forwarded photographs of the suspect and the results of the initial interrogation. In it, he denied any involvement in the attack, but the tourist's testimony and the marks found on her arm matched. She confidently identified him during the lineup. The county sheriff's office investigating Emily's case received all the materials. A DNA comparison request was made. Samples from the missing woman's clothing and fingernails were still stored in the crime lab, although they had not yielded any results at the time. The report for November 2015 states, "Comparison request sent. Response pending." A few months later, an official report was received. No matches were found. The man's DNA did not match the meager traces that had been taken from Emily's belongings. The final document from the forensic scientists contained a short note. No match. Probability 0%. Despite the negative result, the investigators did not close this line of inquiry. In the case files, it remained as a possible contact. The head of the investigation team wrote in the notes, "The similarities are obvious, but there is no direct evidence. Without the body being found, it is impossible to move forward with the case." For the family, this episode was another blow. Headlines such as "Suspect in Grayson case found" even appeared in the press. But later, after the DNA results, media interest faded. The archive contained a package with photographs of the detainee, copies of Arkansas police reports, and a brief conclusion. No direct connection has been established. The Emily Grayson case was once again classified as unsolved. In October 2023, more than 11 years after Emily Grayson's disappearance, an event took place in the Ozark Mountains that moved the case from a hopeless cold case to a real criminal investigation. Two local hunters went into a remote part of the forest on the southern slope, a few kilometers from the nearest tourist trail. This place was rarely visited. Dense thickets, piles of old trees, no marked trails. The men were hunting game when one of them noticed a light-colored object in the cracked trunk of an old oak tree. At first, he thought it was a branch, but the shape seemed too even. When they got closer, it became clear. There was a human skull inside the hollow tree. At 2:37 p.m., one of the hunters dialed 911. The call log states, "Human remains found in a tree hollow. South slope area. Landmark. Old dry oak tree. Coordinates sent by phone." The dispatcher immediately sent a sheriff's office crew and a forensic team to the scene. It was not easy to get to the site. The road took almost an hour on foot, so they arrived only in the evening. The area was immediately cordoned off with caution tape to prevent interference from outsiders. They began their investigation with the tree. The oak had a diameter of more than 1.5 meters, and there was a large crack in the lower part that provided access to the hollow. Inside, at the bottom, lay bones, parts of a skull, ribs, fragments of limbs. They were all mixed with rotten wood and fallen leaves. It was clear that the body had been lying there for many years. Nearby, they found remnants of blue fabric, a metal zipper, and a broken shoulder strap. Forensic experts concluded that these were parts of a backpack. Next to it, they found a plastic bottle, completely discolored by time. The scene examination report noted, Human remains were found in the hollow of a tree. Items believed to belong to the missing person were found: pieces of fabric, a metal zipper, and part of a backpack. All the finds were photographed from different angles, using scale rulers for accurate recording. The bones and objects were then removed in stages and placed in special containers. Soil from the bottom of the hollow was also taken for analysis. The work took several hours. When the samples were packed, the officer made a brief statement to the press, which quickly spread in the local news. Human remains were found today in a remote part of the forest. Experts are working at the site. We are considering all possible scenarios, including a connection to the unsolved disappearance of Emily Grayson in 2012. The family was officially notified the same day. They were told that the remains had been sent for examination to the State Forensic Laboratory. According to forensic scientists, identification could take anywhere from a few days to several weeks, depending on the condition of the DNA. The official log for October 8, 2023 states, 27 photographs were taken. 14 containers with bone samples and soil were seized, as well as 3 bags with fabric fragments and metal parts. The official classification in the report was clear. Possible remains of a missing person found. Case reopened. Status: active investigation. This news was a sensation for the community. The local newspaper published an article titled, "Ozark Uncovers Another Mystery." For the family, it meant that after more than a decade of waiting, there was a chance to learn the truth. The samples, taken from a hollow oak tree on the southern slope of the Ozark forest, were delivered to the State Forensic Laboratory that same evening, October 8, 2023. The accompanying documents were marked high priority, indicating a possible connection to the unsolved disappearance of Emily Grayson in 2012. The first task was identification. Material suitable for genetic analysis was extracted from the bone tissue. It was compared with samples provided by Emily's mother and brother 11 years ago. The result was confirmed by 2 independent methods. The experts' conclusion stated, "The DNA data obtained matches the Grayson family profile. The identification is positive. The remains belong to Emily Grayson." The experts then focused on establishing the possible causes of death. A detailed examination revealed 2 broken ribs and characteristic damage to the right ulna. The medical examiner noted in the report, "The injuries have morphological features characteristic of physical contact, probably a struggle. A fall from a height or other accidental mechanical injuries are unlikely." This led to the conclusion that the incident was violent in nature. The most important stage was the examination of physical evidence. On the remains of blue fabric found next to the bones, the laboratory found cellular material that did not belong to Emily. The isolated DNA profile was entered into the CODIS system for automatic comparison with the data available in the database. A few days later, the system returned a match. The samples matched the profile of a man arrested in 2015 in Arkansas for assaulting a tourist. The final laboratory report, dated October 23rd, states, "DNA samples from tissue collected at the scene matched the profile of citizen N, entered into the CODIS database in connection with a criminal case in 2015. The probability of a random match is virtually impossible." Thus, 3 key findings emerged in the case. The remains of Emily Grayson were identified. The presence of bodily injuries characteristic of a struggle was established. Foreign DNA was found that matched the profile of a person previously arrested for assaulting a tourist. That evening, the sheriff's office issued a brief official statement to the press. Forensic analysis has confirmed that the remains belong to Emily Grayson, who disappeared in 2012. New circumstances have also been established that indicate the violent nature of her death. The investigation has been reopened. For the family, this marked the end of 11 years of uncertainty. They received official confirmation of what had happened to Emily and were informed of new evidence that directly pointed to a suspect. After the results of the examination were made public in October 2023, the Emily Grayson case moved into a completely different category. What had been listed in reports as a disappearance for 11 years was now officially determined to be a murder. The forensic reports clearly state, identification has been made. The injuries found on the skeletal remains are consistent with signs of physical struggle. A foreign DNA profile has been found on fragments of clothing. The main result was a match with the data of Jonathan M., a man who was arrested in Arkansas in 2015 for assaulting a tourist. At that time, he received a real prison sentence and was serving his sentence in a correctional colony. His DNA profile was entered into the federal CODIS database. It was this record that automatically matched the material taken from Emily's clothing. For the county sheriff's office, this was the first concrete evidence in 11 years that allowed them to name a suspect. The official records state, the prime suspect is Jonathan M., born in 1987. Location, Arkansas Correctional Facility. Status, in custody. At the same time, all suspicions were officially removed from Emily's ex-boyfriend. For years, his name remained in the files as a person of interest. Now there was a new note in the report. No reasonable grounds for suspicion found. Person removed from the list. Further actions focused on coordination with the prosecutor's office. On November 11th, the district attorney issued a warrant for a new charge against Jonathan M. He was charged with first-degree murder. The wording in the documents was brief. The suspect, acting intentionally, caused the death of Emily Grayson in June 2012 in the Ozark National Forest. Since he was already in prison, the procedure was quick. The warrant was forwarded to the prison administration. The next day, a report was filed. The suspect has been notified of the new charges. He is in custody. He is awaiting further court hearings. Federal authorities also joined the case. The FBI's interagency report stated, there is a possibility that Jonathan M. may be involved in several similar attacks in different states. Open cases are being compared. Thus, the Emily Grayson case became part of a broader investigation into a series of crimes against women in remote areas. The most important thing for the family was to get the remains. In December 2023, after the completion of the examinations, they were officially handed over. The funeral ceremony took place in Kansas City, attended by relatives and close friends. The tombstone simply reads, Emily Grayson, 1990-2012. The sheriff's office's final report included the following points. Victim, Emily Grayson, 22 years old. Disappeared on June 9, 2012. Identification confirmed. Cause of death, violent bodily injuries characteristic of a struggle. Physical evidence found with foreign DNA. Matches Jonathan M.'s profile. Suspect, Jonathan M., currently in an Arkansas correctional facility, convicted of assault in 2015. New charge, first-degree murder. Case status, transferred to the district attorney's office, preparations for trial underway. For the community, this was sensational news. Local newspapers ran headlines such as, Ozark mystery solved after 11 years. Television stations repeated footage from the scene of the discovery. An old oak tree with yellow police tape. For the family, it was the end of a long wait that had lasted more than a decade. The final sentence of the sheriff's official statement was brief. The Emily Grayson case has been solved. A suspect has been identified and charges have been filed. The investigation is ongoing as part of criminal proceedings.